The biggest mistake you can make is waiting for someone to realize your worth. Yet here you are, still waiting, still hoping, still torturing yourself with every memory, trying to piece together what went wrong. You keep replaying the past, asking yourself the same question over and over: why did they choose someone else over me? But let me ask you something. When has someone ever changed their mind because you sat there suffering? When has someone ever looked at the person they took for granted and suddenly thought, I made a terrible mistake, and come running back, ready to cherish them? Never, because people don't regret what they think they can replace. Press the like button and subscribe, because today I'm giving you what no one else will. The truth, not the sugar-coated feel-good lies that keep you trapped in a fantasy. I'm handing you a reality check, the kind that burns through every illusion you've been holding on to. The person who left you, they weren't confused, they weren't scared of commitment. They made a choice, and that choice was not you. Let that sink in. Welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here, buckle up, because this is where your illusions die. This is where you wake up from the fairy tale that love conquers all and step into a world where people do not value what they do not fear losing. A world where they do not change for the person they take for granted. A world where they didn't pick you, not because you weren't enough, but because you were always too available. You don't believe me? Let me put it this way. Have you ever walked into a store and seen a clearance rack? You glance at it, maybe pick something up, but you don't really care about it. Why? Because it's always there, cheap, replaceable. But step into that same store and see something locked behind glass, something rare, expensive, something that only a few can afford. Suddenly it's desirable. Suddenly it has value. And you? You were the clearance rack. You gave them everything for nothing. You were patient, understanding, forgiving. You excused their bad behavior. You ignored the red flags. You kept waiting for them to wake up, to see your worth, to choose you. But they didn't. They walked away like you were nothing, and you let them. You sat there, convinced that maybe, just maybe, if you had done something differently, if you had loved them harder, if you had just been more, they would have stayed. Wake up. I once spoke to someone who had been with their partner for 6 years. 6 years of waiting, forgiving, hoping. Their partner always had an excuse. They weren't ready. They needed time. They were going through things. And they believed them. They believed that if they just stayed, if they just loved them enough, one day they would see how much they meant to them. Then one day, out of nowhere, they got engaged. Not to them, but to someone else. Someone they had only been dating for a year. They called me heartbroken, asking, why? Why did they choose someone else over me? And I told them the truth, because they never gave them the chance to take them for granted. You see, people don't commit to the person who gives them endless chances. They commit to the person they fear losing, the person who demands more, the person who values themselves, the person who makes it clear they will not settle for crumbs, the person who left after the first sign of disrespect, the person who did not tolerate half-love, the person who walked away instead of waiting. They are the ones who get chosen. And you still think they're special. You still think they're different. You still believe that if you just hold on a little longer, if you just prove yourself one more time, they'll come back. But let me tell you something, and I need you to hear me. They are not special. You just made them that way in your mind. Society has lied to you. They told you that love means sacrifice, that a good person waits, that if you stay loyal, if you just hold on, if you just keep loving them through the pain, one day they will see your worth. But tell me, when has that ever worked? Look around. How many people have wasted their best years waiting for someone to choose them? How many gave everything only to be replaced by someone who demanded more from the start? So I'm telling you right now, You either wake up or keep wasting your time. You either become the person who walks away, or you become the person who watches them build a life with someone else. Say it right now. I refuse to be a second choice. Write it down. Say it out loud. Burn it into your soul, because what's coming next, I'm about to teach you exactly how to make sure they regret the day they ever thought they could replace you. And trust me, my dear, they will feel it. The coldest truth you need to face is this: they never feared losing you. Let that sink in. They walked away, picked someone else, didn't even hesitate, and yet here you are, still waiting, still hurting, still believing that if you just hold on a little longer, they might wake up and realize what they lost. But tell me, where is their suffering? Where is their regret? Are they sitting in the dark, replaying every moment like you are? Are they breaking apart inside, wondering if they made a mistake? Number. They discarded you like yesterday's news and kept moving forward without a second thought. And that should tell you everything, because people don't leave what they're afraid to lose. They don't throw away what they consider valuable, and they certainly don't replace what they believe is one of a kind. But here's the brutal part. They thought they could replace you. Why? Because you gave them everything without making them earn it. You poured your love, your energy, your loyalty into someone who never had to work for it. And because they never had to earn it, they never feared losing it. Think about this. If a store started giving away diamonds for free, do you think people would fight for them? Number. They'd take them without thought, carelessly, because there was no cost, no effort, no value attached. But put that same diamond behind glass, give it a price only a few can afford, and suddenly everyone wants it. That's how people work. That's how desire works. And you were the free diamond. You see, love, respect, and commitment are not given freely. They are earned. The moment someone feels entitled to your love without any effort, the moment they take you for granted, you become replaceable in their eyes. Not because you weren't valuable, but because you didn't make them prove that they deserved you. I once spoke to someone who spent 5 years waiting for their partner to commit. 5 years of patience, understanding, forgiving every mistake, holding on through every broken promise. They gave their all, thinking that one day their loyalty would be rewarded. Then one day, out of nowhere, their partner announced they were engaged, not to them, but to someone else, someone they had only been dating for a year. And do you know why? Because that person didn't wait. That person didn't tolerate disrespect. That person didn't beg to be chosen. The truth is harsh, but it's simple. People do not leave what they are afraid to lose. They did not fear losing you. They knew deep down that no matter how they treated you, no matter how many times they neglected you, you would still be there, waiting, hoping, still an option. The question is, why are you still believing that suffering is proof of love? Why do you still think that if you just show them how deeply you care, they will realize their mistake? Who taught you that patience leads to happiness? Because let me tell you something. Patience does not win love. Strength does. Walking away does. If you want to know what someone truly values, watch how they treat what they're afraid to lose. Do they fight for it, protect it, cherish it, or do they treat it like it will always be there no matter what? People don't hesitate when they know something is irreplaceable. Tell me, did they hesitate when they left? Did they fight for you? Did they show even a flicker of fear at the thought of never seeing you again? That silence should tell you everything. Because love, real love, isn't just about emotions. It's about effort. It's about respect. It's about the undeniable understanding that when you have something rare, you do not risk losing it. You know what the real tragedy is? It's not that they left. It's not that they chose someone else. It's that you sacrificed yourself for someone who never deserved it. that you gave your best years, your best energy, to someone who treated you like an option. But here's the good news. You don't have to stay in this place. You don't have to keep waiting for someone to realize your worth. You don't have to keep hoping they'll come back and finally see what they lost, because by the time they do, you won't even care. Do you know what happens when someone finally chooses themselves? When they stop waiting, stop overgiving, stop settling for anyone who does not value them like gold. They become unreachable, unforgettable, untouchable. And that's when the real shift happens. That's when the person who walked away suddenly starts looking back. That's when the regret kicks in. That's when they realize too late that they lost something they will never get back. Because what they failed to see before, they will see now. They will see that they lost someone irreplaceable, and they will feel it. Stop running after someone who tossed you away like trash. Let's make one thing crystal clear. You are not a charity. Love is not something you hand out like a free sample, hoping someone will finally appreciate it. And yet, here you are, still waiting, still hoping, still wasting your energy on someone who threw you away like you were nothing. They didn't replace you because the new person is better. They replaced you because the new person is new, just like a child begging for a shiny toy, only to toss it aside the second something else catches their eye. That's them. They're not loyal. They're not deep. They're not special. They are just addicted to the thrill of something different. And you're sitting here thinking they won, that maybe if you had been different, if you had loved them harder, if you had been less difficult, they would have stayed. Stop it. They didn't leave because you weren't enough. They left because they assumed you'd always be there. And guess what? If you keep waiting, crying, checking their social media, hoping they'll regret it, you're proving them right. People only regret when they lose something they can't get back. Let that sink in. They don't miss you. They miss the power they had over you. They miss knowing that no matter how badly they treated you, no matter how many times they put themselves first, you were always an option. As long as they know you're still hurting, still watching, still hoping, they feel nothing. You need proof. Let me tell you a story. I once spoke to someone who gave everything to a person who never valued them. They stood by them through their worst days, supported them through failures, forgave every betrayal. They sacrificed their happiness, believing that one day it would all be worth it. Then, out of nowhere, gone. No warning, no hesitation. Within a week, that person was already posting pictures with someone new. They were devastated. They asked me, how could they move on so fast? And I told them the truth, because they never feared losing you in the first place. They knew you loved them too much to truly walk away. They knew you were always going to be there, waiting in the background. So they didn't feel the loss. Not yet. But then something changed. They stopped waiting. They stopped crying. They stopped hoping. They disappeared. They deleted the number, blocked them everywhere, and started living as if they never existed. And guess what? Months later, there they were in their inbox, sending weak, pathetic messages like, "Hey, how have you been? I've been thinking about you a lot." Suddenly they were curious. Suddenly they missed them. Suddenly they wanted to know if they had moved on. But was it love? Number. It was fear. Not fear of losing someone they loved, but fear of losing control. Fear of no longer being the center of their world. Fear of realizing too late that they weren't as important as they thought. That's how people work. They don't process loss in real time. You feel the pain immediately. The moment they pull away, the moment they stop choosing you, you feel it right away. But them? They don't feel it until they know they can never have you again. So tell me, why the hell are you still chasing them? Why are you still thinking about someone who didn't even flinch when they left? Why are you still hurting over a person who replaced you overnight, like you were nothing. Do you really think they're sitting there missing you? Do you really think they're lying awake at night, regretting what they lost? Let me tell you the truth. They won't feel the loss until you are gone. Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, energetically. Right now, they still feel you. They still know you're watching. They still know you're hurting. And that gives them power. That keeps them comfortable. But the second they realize they no longer exist in your world, the second they understand that you have truly moved on, that's when the regret sets in. That's when they start wondering, have they met someone else? Do they even think about me anymore? Did I actually lose them for good? And let me tell you something about people like this. They hate uncertainty because they are used to people waiting. They are used to being chased. They are used to watching others break their own hearts over them. But you are about to break the cycle. You are about to stop being the one who waits. You are about to stop being the one who sits in pain, hoping someone chooses you. Because let me tell you something, people do not choose those who wait. They choose those who make themselves irreplaceable. And how do you do that? You stop chasing. You stop hoping. You stop caring about someone who has already proved they don't care about you. You shift your energy, every ounce of love, every drop of power, every second of focus you wasted on them, you pour it into yourself. Because the truth is, you never lost them. You lost yourself. And now, it's time to get yourself back. Do you know what happens when someone finally chooses themselves? They stop waiting. They stop overgiving. They stop settling for anyone who does not treat them like gold. And the moment they do, they become unreachable, unforgettable, untouchable. And that's when the real shift happens. That's when the person who walked away suddenly starts looking back. That's when the regret kicks in. That's when they realize too late that they lost something they will never get back. Because what they failed to see before, they will see now. They will see that they lost someone irreplaceable, and they will feel it. Cut them off. No words, no warning, just disappear. Silence is your weapon, and right now, you're not using it. Instead, you're out here trying to explain yourself, trying to make them see what they lost, trying to get them to understand your worth. But let me tell you something, they already knew your worth. They just never thought they would lose it. And if you keep reaching out, if you keep looking for closure, if you keep showing them that you're still there, still hoping, still waiting, they will never regret losing you. You think talking will change something. You think if you just send one last message, if you just pour your heart out, if you just tell them how much they hurt you, they'll suddenly wake up and realize what they lost. Number. You are giving them exactly what they want. Because as long as you're still talking, they know they still have a place in your heart. And as long as they know that, they feel nothing. People do not regret what they still have access to. Read that again. As long as they can still reach you, as long as they still know you're thinking about them, as long as they still feel like you haven't truly let go, they do not feel the loss. And that is why you must disappear, not just blocking them, not just ignoring them for a few days and then checking their profile to see what they're up to. Number, I'm talking about complete and total silence. No explanations, no goodbyes, no closure. Because let me tell you the truth, you don't need closure. Closure is an excuse to keep the door open just a little longer. Closure is a lie that makes you think you need their permission to move on. But here's the reality. They already gave you closure the moment they left, the moment they walked away without hesitation. That was their answer. So now it's time for you to make a choice. You disappear. You go ghost. You erase them like they never existed. And trust me, when someone truly disappears, that's when panic sets in. At first, they'll feel nothing. They'll assume you're still hurting, still watching, still waiting for them to reach out. But then days pass, then weeks, then months, and suddenly they realize you're actually gone. That's when the regret starts creeping in. I once worked with someone who was trapped in a toxic cycle with a person who never valued them. Every time they left, they begged for closure. They wrote long messages asking why, trying to make them see how much pain they caused. And every time, they were ignored. Until one day they did something different. They blocked them. No explanation, no warning, no goodbye. At first, nothing happened. The person went on living their life, assuming they were still out there missing them. But then weeks passed, months. Suddenly, they started showing up, calling from random numbers, sending emails, asking mutual friends about them. And then one day, they showed up at their job, not because they loved them, not because they finally realized their worth, but because for the first time they actually felt their absence. And when they saw them, they weren't the broken person who had once begged for their love. They were glowing, happy, unreachable. And that is when they lost their mind. That's how you make someone regret losing you, not by crying, not by explaining, not by hoping they'll come back, but by making sure that by the time they finally realize what they lost, they can never have it again. And you? You're still sitting here thinking about sending that last message, still waiting for closure. You still don't get it, do you? You want them to regret losing you, then disappear. Do not text them. Do not check their social media. Do not leave the door open for them to creep back in when they get bored. You owe them nothing. Because here's the truth. They are not sitting around missing you right now. They are not crying over you. They are not struggling to move on. They are enjoying their life, feeling free, knowing that you're still out there hurting. So flip the script. Make sure that by the time they finally start wondering about you, by the time they finally feel the silence, by the time they finally understand what they lost, it's too late. And trust me, my dear, they will feel it. They didn't win. They're just next. So you think they won? You think they're better than you? You think they're living your dream? Stop lying to yourself. You thought you were special too, remember? You thought they were different. You believed they would never hurt you, that your love was stronger than anything else. And yet here you are, broken, confused, replaced. And them, they're just the next one in line. Because people like this don't build, they don't invest, they use. And when they've drained everything they can from someone, they move on, just like they did with you. Right now, you're torturing yourself, thinking this new person must be different, that they must have something you didn't, that they must be better. They're not. They're just new. And new is easy. Think about it. Ever notice how people obsess over a brand new car? The excitement, the fresh smell, the flawless design. It's intoxicating at first. But then the payments start rolling in, the maintenance costs appear, the reality of ownership sets in, and suddenly the thrill is gone. That's their new relationship right now. Everything feels fresh, effortless. They're putting in effort, making them feel chosen, making them believe they're different. But give it time. Once the excitement wears off, once reality sets in, once the truth of who they really are starts showing, this new person will be exactly where you are now, wondering what happened, wondering why they've become distant, wondering why the person they thought they had is slowly slipping away. I've seen it happen over and over again. Someone once told me about their ex who left them after years together. Almost instantly, they flaunted their new relationship like they had finally found the one. The person they left behind was devastated, convinced they had lost to someone better. But a year later, they got a message, not from their ex, but from the new one. A desperate, broken, shattered person begging for advice because that perfect partner they were with was cheating, lying, playing games, doing everything to them that they had once done before. They weren't winning. They were just next. And here's something you need to understand. The new person is not your enemy. You think they're your competition, but they're not. They're just another player in the same twisted game. And when they finally realize the truth, they'll feel exactly what you're feeling now. So stop sitting here acting like you lost. Stop thinking they're the lucky one. Stop believing that if they're being treated better, it must mean you weren't worthy. They're not living your dream. They're living your nightmare. And one day, they will be the ones searching for answers, just like you are now. So what do? Do you sit here, stalking their pictures, waiting for their relationship to crumble? Do you hope and pray that they suffer just so you can feel better? You make yourself untouchable, because the real revenge isn't watching their relationship fail. It's building yourself into someone so powerful that by the time they realize what they lost, you don't even care anymore. And trust me, they will feel it. Silence is the ultimate power. Level up and leave them behind. Let's get one thing straight. You don't win by making them jealous. You win by making them irrelevant. And yet here you are, still checking their page, still looking at their new relationship, still wondering if they're thinking about you, still playing the same tired game, hoping that one day they'll regret leaving. But let me tell you something. Real power is not proving your worth to someone who threw you away. Real power is when their existence no longer matters to you. That's why the most powerful move you will ever make is silence. I know what you're thinking, but if I post something sexy, won't they notice? If I look like I'm living my best life, won't they come crawling back? Listen to me. You are still thinking like someone who cares, and that is exactly why you are still losing. Because the person who truly moves on, the person who becomes untouchable, doesn't even check if their ex is watching. They're too busy winning to give a damn. Do you think rich, successful people sit around wondering what their exes are doing? They are too busy building their empire, too busy creating, too busy thriving. You think Beyoncé is checking an ex's page. You think Rihanna is sitting there hoping someone regrets losing them. Because they are too busy leveling up, too busy building a life so powerful, so elevated, so untouchable that their past doesn't even exist to them anymore. And that is exactly what you need to do. I once spoke to someone who was completely broken after their partner left them for someone younger, someone more exciting. They felt like their world had ended. They stopped going out, stopped taking care of themselves, spent their nights crying, stalking their ex's social media, watching them flaunt their new relationship like nothing ever happened. But one day, they had enough. They cut them off completely. No warning, no explanations, no messages. They erased every picture, deleted every number, blocked them everywhere. And then they poured every ounce of energy they wasted on that relationship into themselves. They hit the gym, focused on their career, surrounded themselves with people who actually valued them. They became a new person, a version of themselves they never even knew existed. And then 3 years later, guess what happened? That same ex came crawling back, sending weak, empty messages like, "Hey, I've been thinking about you." But by then, they didn't even care, because that person was no longer relevant in their world. That is the goal. Not to make them jealous, not to make them regret, not to get them back. The goal is to build a life so damn good that their memory doesn't even cross your mind. And yet here you are, still stalking their page, still looking at their new life, still wondering if they're happy. What the hell are you doing? Why are you wasting your time, your energy, your power on someone who already proved they don't deserve you? Do you really think they're sitting there obsessing over you the way you're obsessing over them? They are out living their life while you are stuck in the past. And the only way you break free, the only way you win, is by leveling up so hard that you don't even recognize the person who once cried over them. So here's what you're going to do. You are going to erase them from your life completely. No looking back, no checking their page, no replaying old memories like some sad movie. Every time you scroll through their pictures, every time you think about them, every time you wonder if they still care, you are keeping yourself stuck in a chapter that has already ended. Then you are going to pour every ounce of energy you wasted on them into yourself. You are going to glow up so hard, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, that the next time they hear your name, it won't be because you're still crying over them. It'll be because you are winning. Because let me tell you something, the real revenge isn't proving them wrong. The real revenge is making them so irrelevant that you don't even care if they were ever right. And when you finally reach that level, that's when they will feel it. When they come back, and they will, don't fall for it. So you think they're gone for good. You think they're out there living their best life, forgetting you ever existed. Number. That's not how this works. Oh, they're coming back, but not because they love you. Not because they finally realized your worth. Not because they've transformed into the person you always hoped they'd be. They're coming back for one reason, and one reason only, to see if they still have access to you. That's it. That's the game. People always return when they feel your absence, when the silence grows too loud, when they look at their phone and realize your name isn't popping up anymore, not because they miss you, but because they miss the control. They want to know, do they still have you wrapped around their finger? Because here's the truth, people want what they can't have. And for too long, you were too damn easy to have. They didn't have to fight for you, they didn't have to earn you, they didn't have to fear losing you, and because of that, they never truly valued you. But now they're realizing something has shifted. Now they're starting to wonder. Now, for the first time, they're feeling the loss. I once heard a story about someone who spent years trapped in the same cycle. Their ex would leave, disappear for months, and just when they were starting to move on, boom, there they were, a random message, a casual, "Hey, how have you been?" Like nothing ever happened, and every single time they fell for it. Maybe this time they're serious, maybe this time they've changed, maybe this time they actually miss me. But do you know what really happened? The second they replied, the second they entertained them, the second they gave them even a fraction of their attention, they disappeared again. Because they never came back for them, they came back for their ego. They came back because they were bored. They came back to make sure they still had them emotionally trapped. And that's exactly what your ex is about to do. So let me ask you something. Are you really about to let them pull the same trick on you? Are you really about to fall for the same tired game? You better not answer that message, because the second you do, you prove to them that you never actually left, and that's all they want to know. If you respond, even with just a simple, "Hey," you tell them they still have you. You tell them they can come and go as they please. You tell them you were waiting. And the second they know that, the second they feel that control again, they lose all regret. They stop missing you. They stop wondering, because now they know you were never really gone, and they will disappear again. And the cycle will repeat again and again until one day you wake up and realize you've wasted years on someone who was never afraid to lose you in the first place. So let me say this loud and clear. When they come back, and they will, you do not respond. You do not give them closure. You do not give them another chance. You do not give them the satisfaction of knowing you still care. You let them sit in the silence. You let them feel your loss the way you felt theirs. You let them regret. And when they finally realize what they lost, when they finally start panicking, when they finally want you back for real, it will be too damn late. because by then you will have moved on. And trust me, they will feel it. This is it, the final move. The moment you stop being the one they take for granted and start being the one they fear losing, you've allowed them to play you for far too long, offering your love like it was up for grabs, tolerating disrespect, forgiving what should have been unforgivable. And for what? For someone who never truly saw your worth. For someone who replaced you the minute they got bored. No more. You don't win by making them jealous. You don't win by trying to prove your worth to someone who couldn't even recognize it in the first place. You win by becoming untouchable, someone whose value is so clear and unwavering that it requires no explanation. This means leveling up in such a way that when they finally realize what they lost, you're too far gone for it to matter. Think about how gold is treated. There's a reason why it's locked away, carefully guarded, protected by countless security measures. It's precious, it's rare, it's not something you can toss around carelessly. People value what they can't easily replace. Gold doesn't beg to be chosen, it simply exists, and everyone knows it's valuable. You need to embody that same energy. Instead of waiting around for someone to pick you, become so undeniably worthy that anyone with sense recognizes they can't afford to lose you. One question that may arise is, how do I do that if I feel so broken? The truth is, you have to rebuild yourself from the inside out. It starts with a decision, one that says, I am done being an option. And then every day you live by that decision. You practice self-care like never before. You pursue your goals with renewed focus. You cultivate relationships with people who respect and celebrate you. You shut down any dynamic that tries to steal your peace. A big worry might be, what if I never find anyone better? But here's a reality check. The person who walked away wasn't the best to begin with, were they? If someone could abandon you without a second thought or treat you as if you were disposable, that's not someone who ever deserved to be called the best. Holding on to a fear of not finding better only keeps you anchored to a situation that was unfulfilling in the first place. Picture yourself as a tree, deeply rooted in rich soil. No matter how hard the wind blows, you remain stable because your roots are strong. That soil is your self-worth. Whenever you question yourself, water those roots with reminders of who you are. Feed them with the knowledge that you are inherently worthy. Over time, those roots will grow so strong that no passing storm, no person's sudden departure or lukewarm love can uproot you. Some might also wonder, isn't it petty to want them to regret losing me? The real win isn't in chasing their regret. The real win is creating a life so fulfilling that you don't even have to face wondering if they regret letting you go. Regret is just a byproduct, a natural side effect of them realizing they lost something irreplaceable. But that's not your goal. Your focus isn't on their sorrow, it's on your growth. There's a saying that success is the best revenge, and it's true, except you're not doing it for revenge. You're doing it for yourself. People with high standards don't wait to be validated by someone who took them for granted. They invest in themselves until it's obvious, even to an outsider, that losing them was a monumental mistake. You might ask, what if they come crawling back once they see I'm doing better? Understand this, they didn't value you when it mattered. They took your kindness for weakness. And the moment they see you shining, they might want a piece of that glow. But that doesn't mean they've changed. It usually means they just can't stand watching you be happy without them. True transformation requires deep introspection and genuine remorse, and only time reveals if they've done the work. In the meantime, you focus on your own path. Become so involved in your own life, your own success, your own peace, that whether they show up or not becomes irrelevant. Imagine living like a lighthouse, steadfast, bright, guiding your own way, unshaken by the storms that pass. You're not out chasing ships at sea, hoping one will anchor at your shore. You simply shine, and that light alone is enough to make it clear that you stand tall with or without them. Remember this: you are worthy. Whether they see it or not has no bearing on your value. Whether they regret losing you or not doesn't define your worth. People who fail to cherish you merely prove they aren't equipped to handle the kind of love and loyalty you offer. So let them go. Find something lesser, something more aligned with their shallow perceptions. You, on the other hand, have bigger plans. Plans that involve leveling up so immensely that your past heartbreaks become stepping stones to an unshakable future. So no more chasing, no more begging, no more crying over someone who never deserved the best parts of you. From here on out, you pour that energy into yourself. You rise above the chaos. You create a life that dazzles you every single day, filled with self-respect, achievements, and genuine connections that don't leave you guessing your own worth. And when they finally realize they made the biggest mistake of their life, when they grasp that they lost someone extraordinary, well, by then you'll be too far ahead to even notice their regret. That's the moment you know you've won. That's when you know you've become a person no one can play, break, or take for granted. And that, right there, is the final move.